Hello, and welcome to another segment of Smoke Signals. I'm your host for today's show, Lieutenant Chris Taylor from the LaGrange Fire Department. It's the holiday season, and we have a great show lined up for you today. We have two special guests here from Gwinnett Fire and EMS Services. So kick back, relax, because you're about to watch Smoke Signals. Welcome back. Today we have several special guests with us today, and our very first special guest is Lieutenant Sylvia Golan from the Gwinnett Fire and EMS Services. Hello, Sylvia, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I know that you all have a busy schedule, but I'm just glad that you all had an opportunity to come down from Gwinnett County, because I know you all have a whole lot of things to do in Gwinnett. So it's a pleasure, and I'm quite sure our viewing audience will be glad to see someone else outside of the Troup County LaGrange area. So we're definitely glad that you were able to come. If you could, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been involved with the fire service, and any other pertinent background information.
Okay. Well, I've been with Gwinnett County for 7 years. I originally started as a fire and life safety educator, and about a year ago I got promoted to lieutenant.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I manage the community risk reduction education section, and there's 7 educators, and we have 2 nonprofits within that little group. And we do anything from going out and teaching a community outreach class to pulling data and create programs specifically for the needs of Gwinnett County. A lot of the things that we do in Gwinnett County are data driven. So we do pull calls on fires, fall hazards, and figure out how to create programs to fix the needs in our community. Our department or our section also writes some grants, so we have enough resources to pay for some of the projects that we do in Gwinnett County.
Cool, sounds good. And I've had an opportunity to attend some classes that you taught over at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. So I have a chance to hear some of the data-driven programs that you all produce in the Gwinnett County area. It's very interesting. I tell you one that was even more interesting to me, a class that you taught a while back, and that was the census class. I had a lot of fun with that, but there was a lot of information when you go to the Census Bureau that you just kind of blow your mind, because you don't realize there's so much data there, and there's things just in your own community that you may not be aware of. And I just appreciate you all shedding some light on that for me, so that I can be a little bit more productive in knowing what's going on in our community. Now let's talk about services that are offered by Gwinnett County, and what is the population? Because I think y'all are probably one of the largest metropolitan areas.
We are the largest fire district in the state of Georgia. I want to say Cobb County and DeKalb County are very close in the amount of people that they serve. But Gwinnett County specifically, we have 30 fire stations, all full staffed. We are all career firefighters. We serve 800, according to the census, we have about 854,000 people in Gwinnett County.
Wow.
I want to say that population-wise, we have about 23% Hispanic or Latino. We've got about 13% Asian and Korean community being the lead Asian group that we serve. We have the biggest school district in the state of Georgia with over 200 schools.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got a lot of schools. Let's see. So the community outreach programs that we offer can be anything from a fall hazard program. We go out to the schools, and we were just awarded a grant with Michigan State, and we're going to be a pilot source where we're pushing a new project in the schools, specifically in the 2nd grade, and it's called Operation Sound Off. Okay. It's sponsored through Vision 2020, NFPA, the National Fire Protection Association. So we're going to be in the schools, focusing on the 2nd grade, and doing a lot of great things next year.
That sounds good. And I do want to let our viewing audience know that even though you're all in Gwinnett County, we have a viewing audience all the way up to the metropolitan area. If you're on AT&T Uverse, you can actually watch our shows. And one of the things that we want to do in this show is we want to be able to reach out to the people that who are in our community and our viewing audience, to let them know that, you know, some people here may end up in Gwinnett County. So, you know, they may have family in Gwinnett County. And being able to see the information that you all share today might help someone that is here, but also related information from here to the metropolitan area. So we want to make sure people understand that, because it's great to have this information that you all are going to be sharing, because I know y'all have a wealth of information to share with us today, and I'm looking forward to it. And but we want to let people know that they can see this information in the metropolitan area, and also on YouTube, because YouTube is a very popular site now for government agencies. And you can go to our YouTube site, which is LGTV LaGrange, Georgia, and you can see all the wonderful shows that are placed on YouTube. So let's talk about some holiday safety tips for the home and businesses, because we're getting into that time of the year, holiday season, winter season. So kind of tell us a little bit about some tips during this holiday season.
Well, I know it doesn't feel like winter in Georgia just yet, but it's starting to get cold. It's pretty warm out there. But like you said, Chris, any information that we share is universal, which is why we're here. We're here to partner each other, support each other, and make sure that the community gets the message. One of the most important things that we like to start off saying in our community is making sure that you have that operating smoke alarm. The fire safety, the holiday safety that we're going to share is very important, but for the fire service, for both of us, having a working smoke alarm in every level of the house, and according to the National Fire and Protection Association, they're recommending one in each level and one in every single bedroom that they're sleeping. So it is very important for a traditional two-story house, 3 bedrooms, you're going to have one in each level, 2 smoke alarms, and one in each bedroom. That's another 3. That's 5 smoke alarms in one home. Right. So not only do you need to have the working smoke alarms, they have to be operable. Most smoke alarms, as you know, Chris, expire after 10 years. Yes. So if your property is older than 10 years, it may be an opportunity for you during this holiday season to go out, test your smoke alarms, pull them down from the ceiling, and make sure that they're in working order. Or if you need to replace them, go ahead and do that at that time. Okay. Not just that, we want to encourage families, and especially if you have pets, to have some sort of escape plan. And an escape plan is just something written that you've discussed with your family, talking about if there is that fire emergency, how are we going to escape that catastrophic event that can occur. Exactly. And as you know, Chris, according to the National Fire Protection Association, most fires happen between the hours of 9 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning. What are most of us doing during that time? Well, we're sleeping. Should be sleeping. But you know, in this day of time, some people don't go to bed till midnight. That's true. That's true. But knowing that fires start in the middle of the night and having that operable smoke alarm, that's the first line of defense for any of us. It is, and we can't stress it anymore about having a working smoke alarm, because it's a proven fact that working smoke alarms save lives. And if you do not have a working smoke alarm in your home, then check with your local departments. They may have smoke alarm programs that they can offer. And there's ways of having smoke alarms, but as we know, being in the fire service profession, just because there's a smoke alarm on the wall doesn't mean it's working. That's right, I agree. So we want to make sure that those smoke alarms are up and running the way they're supposed to. But let's talk a little bit about some holiday safeties. A couple of things, like for example, my family and I, we just put our Christmas tree up over the weekend. Okay. And most families are doing the same thing. We're here to give a couple of tips about whether you choose to do a natural Christmas tree versus an artificial Christmas tree. Make sure that if you do get an artificial Christmas tree that it is UL tested, meaning that it has been tested by a professional agency, that it's not a fire hazard.
Right.
Okay. If you decide to go with a natural Christmas tree, make sure it's 100% green. Look through the pine straws that it's not dried out. We want to encourage you to put enough water in it. I see it happen a lot. It happened to me last year, which is why I went with an artificial one this year. My Christmas tree last year, Chris, it dried out really quick because my dog apparently was drinking the water underneath the tree, and I didn't even notice that she was doing that.
Right.
So making sure that you have enough water. Making sure that if you are going to put your lights up, the recommendation, a rule of thumb for the fire service is no more than 3 strands of light per Christmas tree, so you don't overload those outlets.
Right.
As you know, that can be a potential fire hazard.
Definitely.
If you have too many decorations plugged into one outlet. According to the National Fire Protection Association, we know that 2 out of every 3 fires that occur during the holiday season happen because a Christmas tree was overloaded an outlet or too close to a heating source.
Yes. Exactly.
We want to encourage the families to use the 3-foot rule. That means 3 feet away from anything that burns. If your fireplace is right next to your Christmas tree and it gets really cold this week and we turn on that fireplace, that can be a huge potential fire hazard.
It definitely can.
And that goes for businesses as well, Chris. If you put your artificial Christmas tree in your place of work, we want to make sure that it's not blocking any exits. Make sure that the employees are aware that before they leave for the night, and even when you go to bed in your own home, turn off the tree, unplug it, making sure that we have those safety hazards during the holiday season.
Okay. Now, let's talk real briefly about some outreach programs for the Latino and our Hispanic communities, because that is important information that we want to get out there to those communities, because a lot of times they may not have the resources or know where to go to get the resources.
I agree. And like Chris shared earlier during the program, there is some YouTube videos that we've seen. I've even actually looked some fire safety messages in Spanish online just so I can get accustomed to what's going on in our community. So if you're looking for resources, I want to go online and I want to find some great information in multiple languages. NFPA, and I've been talking about it all morning, the National Fire Protection Association, and their website is www.nfpa.org, and on there you can find multiple fire safety worksheets that talk about different holiday safety, cooking safety in Spanish. For example, the Red Cross, they're a very diverse organization.
Yes.
Resources are in multiple languages, Spanish being one of them. So we encourage people to go on the Red Cross website, NFPA website. Smoke alarm programs, like Chris mentioned earlier, you can walk into one of your fire stations and get some pamphlets in multiple languages as well. In our community, for example, we had to get creative. Gwinnett County being so diverse and so large, we needed to find an outlet to reach out to the Hispanic community. So we partnered up with our local Spanish radio stations, and we do something similar to what we're doing today.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, in Spanish and in multiple languages as well. So Spanish being the main purpose, or the main language that we go out and try to outreach. And one of our fire and life safety educators is fluent in Spanish, and she just started with us a couple of months back, and she's been a huge advocate of the Hispanic community and hosting several open houses talking about fire safety in Spanish, and she just finished wrapping up the 3rd CPR class in Spanish in Gwinnett County.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, one last thing that we want to cover, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. If you could talk about emotional challenges for families during the holidays, because this is that time of the season where people are really going through a lot of emotions, and it can be various emotions, but kind of talk about some emotional challenges.
Well, I'd like to share a story with you, Chris, that happened in our community, and it kind of hits the point about after the fire. It's a stressful time of year, trying to shop for your family members. Some of us that may not be that close, and we have to travel, or family members, or you just can't travel because resources or finances don't allow you to go out of state to visit families. And some of us may just be home. So it is a very emotional time this time of year. But this reminds me of a fire that occurred in Gwinnett County. we do a lot of community outreach, and we have a really good fire department supporter. Her name is Candy Rodriguez. She's a Hispanic female, and she huge in the community, goes out, does advocacy with us, does training. She had a fire right around the holidays. And she couldn't have said it better than she said it when she spoke during one of our conferences. On average, it takes a fire department, 3 to 6 minutes to arrive on scene for a fire?
Right.
Having that escape plan is so important. So this is what happened in her fire. Her daughter was home, and she had her 6-month-old at home, and she had her, it was her adult daughter, so she was in her 20s. Her 6-month-old daughter was hers, and then her sister was there that was about 11 years old. It was during the holidays, Christmas decorations were up, and down in the basement she had her her brother that lived there with his wife that was mobility impaired. She was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
So it was a full house. Candy was at work, and her husband was also at work, but it was the holidays, everybody was there. One of the most common ways that we see fires occur in our community is cooking fires. So the daughter was cooking in the kitchen. The baby started crying. She needed to go change the diaper. And so she asked the 11-year-old daughter to stay in the kitchen while she went out and changed the diaper. Okay. It took less than 30 seconds, Chris, for that fire to get out of control, and an 11-year-old does not know what to do with a grease fire. Immediately grew through the cabinets, behind the walls. By the time the smoke alarm went off, the daughter realized what was going on. They're big advocates of the fire service, so that little 11-year-old girl knew exactly what to do. She got down on the ground, crawled to the living room, grabbed the little 6-month-old, pulled her out, while the adult daughter went downstairs to support the other two, that was the one in the wheelchair and then the brother, got him out of the house. Everybody made it out of the house. Fire department came, we fought the fire. But Chris, in less than 10 minutes, everything, she had been living in that house for 30 years, in less than 10 minutes she lost her whole life.
Wow.
Everybody made it out, and that's a success story for us in the fire service, as you know.
Yes.
But the emotional background between losing everything, the holidays coming up, and now being homeless to top it all off, it brings a lot of emotion and a lot of things that can happen to a family. So it is so important that we encourage you in our community to have those working smoke alarms, have a fire escape plan. A lot of things can be prevented if we just make sure that we're a little bit more aware during the holiday season.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And thank you for sharing that story, because I think that will hit home for a lot of our viewers here today. Either they've been in that situation or know someone who's been in a fire situation, and it's never pleasant, but a life saved is always the best result.
I agree.
All right, well, thank you for sharing the worth of information, but at this time we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back we'll have more here on Smoke Signals.
Just what you're looking for. You'll find it in one of the 28 shops in downtown LaGrange. Remember old school customer service? It's still here. Not to mention that perfect gift. That's the beauty of downtown LaGrange. Downtown LaGrange is where Santa shops, so come on down.
Welcome back. We're here now with our second guest on the show, Miss Stella Kim, who is the Senior Fire Educator for Gwinnett Fire and EMS.
Hi.
Stella, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and I know that you have had a busy schedule with your roles and responsibilities being the Senior Educator, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but want to thank you again for taking time out to come out of the confines of Gwinnett County and come down to LaGrange.
I was like, what is LaGrange? No, I'm just kidding.
Come down to LaGrange and be with us, and we're definitely pleased to have you and Sylvia here in our community. But before we get into our topics, If you could just tell us a little bit about your role and responsibility with Gwinnett Fire.
Yeah, I will. As my lieutenant mentioned earlier, I work specifically under her with a team of 7 people. Okay. So as the senior, what I do is a lot more administrative things, but people don't really understand it takes a lot of planning to host outreach programs. Right. So most of my roles is actually just doing the details. When to do this, making sure everyone's prepared, making sure the staff knows what's on the schedule, making the schedule and things like that. And I also help lead the bigger projects. So we host 2 festivals a year, and we work with over 10 organizations, so including PD, community outreach organizations. Wow. This past year, we actually did a naturalization ceremony with the Federal Immigration Center. So that was kind of interesting too. So we've been able to kind of outreach all sorts of communities through that. Okay,
cool. And I'm quite sure with that, with the scheduling, you know, that there's not enough time in a day.
No, it's not. It's actually a lot more difficult than people think, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Well, considering that you have a population of over 800,000 people, and you probably see out of the 800, probably, you know, 50,000, 60,000 people a year. So, I mean, you know, that can be quite challenging. Now, if you could tell us a little bit about a community program that you all have there in Gwinnett County.
Okay. My lieutenant mentioned a couple of them, and I just wanted to expand on that. So we don't really like to create a new wheel. We like to reinvent things. So we follow NFPA standards, but what we are really proud of is kind of taking a twist of something we found across the world in Australia. They have a very high population of Vietnamese residents, and they were unable to get through the language barrier. It's not very easy just to pick up a language. Although I am Asian American, people don't realize there are many different dialects, there are many different languages. We are not tied by one language. So we were actually able to create an ESL program, which is the English as a second language. And what we were aiming to do was actually go out to the community and educate people through the lessons of English. So there's a lot of popularity with newly immigrated community residents where they want to eventually take a citizenship test or apply for citizenship and things like that, or just learn to communicate with the larger population of America. And when you go in here, you will easily go into a classroom of 30 newly immigrated students that have no idea about fire prevention in America. Smoke alarms don't either look the same or they're not important at all in their home country. So we were able to do one in how to call 911. It's an English conversation, very easy, 3-line of how to explain your location and how to explain what your emergency is and what an emergency is. So versus calling because there's a snake, versus, you know, there's a medical, you know, emergency, things like that. So we were able to expand on top of that with home safety surveys as well. And we were able to create at least 3 of them.
Okay, cool. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting.
I can bet, I imagine. Now, with that, we talked about the community programs. Let's talk about some safety tips for the winter season, because we, even though we're not experiencing winter yet, but it'll sneak up on us before we know it. So if you would share with us some winter safety tips for the home, for the car, and businesses.
So when I first hear what about winter safety for all those 3 types of things, the first thing I think of is carbon monoxide. A lot of people, although we do a lot of education on smoke alarms, it's mostly about upkeep. People don't keep up with them, but a lot of people in a lot of homes that I've gone into for surveys, a lot of people do not have carbon monoxide alarms. So the one thing I would like to hammer in is that carbon monoxide can affect your family as well, especially if you're using generators, using your central heating for the first time, or maybe you're trying to bust out your fireplace. So even when you're burning wood or coal, if you're doing anything that doesn't burn all the way or is burning incorrectly, what will leave is actually carbon monoxide floating around. Now, if you have a lot of that, it'll end up poisoning a person, and then you don't you won't be in a very good right state of mind, and it could also eventually lead into death.
Definitely.
So what I would like to say is one thing, when you're starting up your car, when it does get cold, usually around January is when we have a spike in these type of incidents. Don't turn on your car in your garage without opening your garage door. I know it kind of defeats the whole purpose. You want it to warm it up, but it'll be warm inside. But all of that smoke and carbon monoxide that's left over will be going into your home. And there are very famous incidents that have fatalities in them because they forget to turn off their car as well, fall asleep or things like that. Generator is a big thing. We also have families who may or may not be able to afford to do central heating. It's very costly, or especially if it's tied to gas. So what they'll do is they'll use ovens or space heaters and things like that. So we just want to make sure everyone's aware.
Okay, yeah, and space heaters are definitely a safety factor, because a lot of people will store combustible materials too close to a heater and things of that nature. So we always want to make sure we have that 3-foot zone. Away from any type of heating equipment. So that's very important. Now, what are some outreach programs for the Asian or Korean communities?
I usually focus a lot on depending the season, which I think it's very same all over the prevention world. So this season, I'm really hammering hard on Christmas trees that my lieutenant talked about, but I'm really focusing on space heaters. And what's specific to Asian communities, we love, it looks like a blanket, but it's a warming blanket, but it's a pad instead. And the thing is, it's kind of like your Christmas decorations, you kind of pull it out every season, but after a couple of years, the wear and tear on it, people don't realize that it can actually become a huge fire hazard. My parents themselves, I had to educate them because they will leave it on very low all day, but that is an electrical appliance, a heating source that they leave on the entire day so that it keeps their bed warm when they come home at night. But that means for 15 hours or 12 hours you're gone out of the house, it's just there. And this thing is 20 years old, so immediately replace it, take it out, give it some time, be a little more patient with some of your appliances, be aware of some of the tripping hazards that come with it as well. But specifically for the Asian community, I really think it's the same topics, as you have to deliver it a different way. A lot of times with me, I actually have to go into the community to do anything. I can't just post signs or, hey, I'm hosting a class here. I have to really insert myself in many different communities.
Okay, sounds great, sounds great. All right, and if you could briefly, we can't go without talking about holiday safety, winter safety, without mentioning our senior adults.
Yes, of course.
So let's talk about our senior adults real quick.
Our seniors love to decorate. I can see that very, very well, right? Every home I go into, and they're very excited to do so. Might be the first time they actually want to cook something. So I really want to caution our seniors, make sure when you're in the kitchen, the 3-foot rule applies. If it's your first time cooking in a long time, make sure you're not wearing anything very loosely fit. Make sure everything is rolled up or it's away from your arms, especially like robes, so you don't catch anything on fire, or not too close to heating appliances. But most of the time we see trips and falls happening, especially around space heaters. They love to put them in the bathrooms, right? And I get it, you're coming out of a shower, you want to have a warm area, but all of that stuff is a very, very dangerous hazard to have, especially because one fall can actually lead into multiple injuries for our seniors. So that's probably the biggest thing. I just want to remind all the viewers as well that 1/3 of all home heating fires come from space heaters, whether they're portable or you have them in one spot. So make sure you follow that 3-foot rule and make sure you look out for all tripping hazards. And hopefully you have a very, very awesome and safe holiday.
Sounds great. A lot of great information.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you sharing that with us. So we're going to take another quick break and we're going to wrap it up. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Once again, I would like to thank our special guests for being on the show, Lieutenant Sylvia Golden and Ms. Stella Kim from Gwinnett Fire and EMS Services. We like to take this time to thank each and every one of you for watching this show, and we would like to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.